Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of our rapid speedrun against Prod 666, rated 1355. So a good deal higher than our last opponent in rating. Let's see if he chooses an open Spanish, an open Sicilian. He does not. He also develops the bishop to c4 like so many before him. So he develops the knight, trying to prevent us from going d5 and with tempo on the bishop. So we can just develop our knight and re-prepare it without threat of e5 because it's in a safer spot. Now he plays b3, which looks very awkward, takes away squares for his bishop. And so I'm going to thrust in the center on the light squares and attack it. He doesn't respond by taking, he instead pins my knight. Already we have the option of pushing past and kicking his knight from its best location, blunting his bishop, which he plans on fianchettoing. So this just looks really bad for white. And now you would want to go e5, but it's hanging, so be careful because the knight's pinned. However, we can play a6 and say, what are you doing with this bishop? It doesn't have anywhere to go. When he takes, we can take with the knight, getting out of the way of our pieces and re-supporting the e5 pawn push. And now that he commits to fianchettoing, we even want to push e5 more to just cement these dark squares, open our light square bishop, and just have a huge advantage. So now we just have a lot more space than white by move 9 as he just castles. That's fine. If I go bishop out trying to ruin his pawn structure and he just runs backwards, it's a little bit weird to have my bishop there. It's also not necessary to do that. There is g5, which is interesting. Maybe I should go g5. There's also h5, which of course is always good, but it's definitely not as wild as g5. g5, knight g6, we push. Whatever he does, we go h4, h5, h4. I'm going to go g5 and just full send. I feel like I have full control over the center. I don't think he has good pawn breaks, right, in c6 or f4. They don't come effective or soon. So he just makes a casual pawn move, which can't be the right thing when I'm about to do this. So let's go g4, knowing he cannot go to the side due to our queen. And so he gets pushed back. That can't be good for him. He has this square, but it's not stable because of b5. Also, he's going away from the king side. You can immediately go queen h4, but it's just one piece. I think a pawn storm is in order. So let's go h5, h4, try to open up lines for the rooks and queens. So we're moving a lot of pawns. We're not really developing. And you can do this more so in a closed center. So he tries to open it up by moving the f pawn, which makes some sense. But by taking, we open the g file, and that's kind of one of the things we want. So I'm going to do it. He takes with the rook, not the knight. Okay. This pressures the f point a little bit, but nothing significant. We now have an open g file. We can get in our bishop or our queen actively. The queen is maybe premature without other pieces. If you hit the rook and he just moves it, do you really want your bishop there? Probably not. However, he does want to bring his knight in. He does also want to go rook over. So maybe h4 makes sense, even though we're still not developing. I think it does, oddly enough, make sense. So let's go h4 and just prevent his pieces from using that square. I feel like f7 is easily defended with rook, with bishop, with queen, even knight d8 if necessary. I don't know. Meanwhile, his dark square bishop's on the other side of the board doing nothing, so I can drum up dark square nonsense on the king side. So he tries to improve his knight. What does this threaten? Nothing. And also, as mentioned, we have the free move b5 kicking it back, gaining space on the queen side as well. And now we can think what we want to do while he wastes his time moving back. Rook g8's a move, but we can also try to develop a new piece because the rook could be useful in the h-file. So now if we put the queen out, the rook can't harass it in the same way as before. Neither can the knights. So now I'm going to develop a new piece now that the rook cannot go to g3. So white moved more pieces than us, but our position looks a lot better. He double stacks in the f-file, which does threaten the pawn, so you should probably notice that. I think a simple developing move bishop e6 just removes all pressure with a minor piece, and it's actually a beautiful square. We're hardly going out of our way. We want to develop anyway. He goes g3. What's the threat? Well, there is no threat because the pawn is pinned. Maybe he's making room for his queen or who knows what. The downside is this creates a hook, which means we can open our rook for free. Why would he do that? Well, maybe he wants us to take and he can maybe put a rook here or something. But the drawback, one of the drawbacks of his queen move, he moved his queen attacking our king. One of the drawbacks was it's hanging a knight. So if you took that knight and he takes your pawn, maybe your king's fine, maybe it can just move, no problem, but you don't even want to deal with that. So we cover the weakness first. He goes here. Now we could definitely take the knight. However, do we have better? For example, what if we open up the h-file for our rook with amazing discovery threats, right? And then take the knight. And now at least our rook's open. Our king can still castle long as we haven't committed. So he infiltrates with the queen. What does this threaten? Threatens our rook. It also prevents long castling. However, we're up a piece. He's hanging another one. But if you take it and he takes your rook, I mean, you could long castle there and still be winning, but you don't have to allow it. You could just retreat your queen, protect the rook, and threaten queen h2. It's just a simpler way to play. And he either gives you the queen trade when you're up a piece, or he has to retreat and he admits defeat, essentially. Because now you can just long castle, and when you move your bishop and your rooks are connected, his king is open. So he makes a bishop move trying to improve it to a better diagonal because he sees what he did. But okay, we could just move out of the way. It's not a big deal. We just go up one. We're ready to move our bishop one, cover our weaknesses, connect our rooks. This is just overwhelming. Anytime he tries a4 saying, hey, I'm going to go for your king, you just push past with a complete bind. So he moves his rook back. You can do whatever you want, but I'm going to stick for the simple developing move and bring the last piece in the game. Our knight could stay here as a defensive piece. We don't really need it. Okay, he's maneuvering his pieces, trying to cover his king more and more. He's hitting our queen, so in order to get the turn back, let's throw him a check. He has to retreat with one piece. He chooses the knight. We could force trades with something like this, but I still think we should get our last piece in the game with rook dg8. That was definitely a mouse slip. He can ask for a take back. I'll ask for a take back. He gives it to me. So now I'll go here and he can take for real. Okay, he didn't ask for a take back. I had to do it for him. And then he did it. So he moves his king. This threatens mate. Or something. But I think even better is maybe this. Deflecting the queen. If he takes it, that's mate in 1. If he doesn't take it, he hangs the queen. It's 1400, guys. And just positionally, all the wrong stuff. You see how his fianchetto bishop was just awful, terrible. What are you going to do? Let's go through the game. We play a Sicilian. We want to get a Kalashnikov, but he doesn't go into the open, so we just adjust. We play e6, controlling the center and developing. And preparing d5. He stops d5. So we develop towards the center, we prepare d5. Here comes d5, center, development for free. Okay, we have no blunders, but we do have one mistake, so we'll get to that. One mistake in a 28 move game. I'm not going to cry about it. So anyway, we can improve our position for free in the center and gain space. So let's do it. Now we can improve our position for free, try to pick up the bishop pair because this bishop has nowhere to go. Free win, positional win for us. We got the bishop pair. Ta-da. Terrible move that just aims at nothing. You have to try to break it down if you're going to do this, but he never did. And now we just get to solidify. Center, development, minus 1.4. Already really crushing for black. What's the best move here, and how crazy is g5? I knew it. I had a feeling. So it says the top two tied, or g5 and h5 is the best. Even though it's emboldening the g5 move with the blue. They're both minus 1.2. So they're both acceptable, but g5 is cooler, so we picked the right one. He ignores us. It says you could just go h5, probably because you can go h5, h4, and then g4. You could also go g4 first since this square is covered, so I don't think it's necessary to use that order. Because now, unless now he has a move. What's his move now? Knight g6, f5. But if you start with h4, wait, what did he do when I did this? The pawn. So let's say this. Now let's go with the g. I forgot what he did again. Okay, he moved the knight back. Well, that's because I hit it. Okay, so let's go here, here, knight back. Okay, so now in this version, I can play h4 instead of g4. Which means there's no knight g6, and on f5, we have this pawn to take, whereas before it was on g4, so it's not as good, the en passant square. So this was something I never thought about, but it seems to be actually super important in attacking. Because this happens in lots of different openings, you can get something like this. So this is actually a super important concept that we stumbled across, luckily. And that is starting with h4, because having the pawn on g5 longer is more effective against the f4 defensive resource. I did not know that. But now I know it. So, okay, so now when in doubt, you can do the G pawn, 2 squares, but be careful with the third one until you have H5 included. And even then, if you ever push it, you're still making F5 stronger. I never really thought about it like that. That's super useful. In any case, I go G5, G4, he runs away, and now I start the pawn storm. He plays F3, and how are you supposed to respond? Just ignore, let him take. You take, he tries to close it, you go away. Okay, and it's like a positional attack at the same time. 2 in 1. But we take, also good. Yes, similar, I guess. They do recommend the bishop out, but then they change their mind. They change it to h4, which is what we played, continuing the attack, being consistent. He's supposed to play h3, but never does. And then we get a similar position to what we just looked at. And we just develop, when I said positional attack, it's like this. But he doesn't do that. He hops the knight in, which gives us the immediate b4, b5, hitting the knight. He goes somewhere. And now you could develop any of your pieces. Queen g5, bishop g4, and bishop h6. So either bishop or the queen you can develop, or go h3 immediately, which is the strongest. So on h3, rook h3, the bishop's going to take it. On h3, g takes, still everything opens up, bishop takes it. If it pushes past locking down, you have a positional wedge pawn, but you don't have the attack anymore. You just have a long-term, much better position, or winning position. You get both your bishops out here, and you just dominate the position. While that does make sense, I wasn't trying to lock things down and play that way. Although it says it's a little bit stronger than the other moves. But again, you could play in different styles. So we just develop towards his king. And yeah, he's supposed to go for a4, but there's nothing ever really there. What's funny is after a4, why do they recommend taking when you... Okay, yeah, they switched it to b4. I was going to say when you could just push past. That's dumb. Okay, but anyway, we move our queen. He moves his queen, hanging the knight. Okay, you could definitely take it immediately if you calculate. Rook takes pawn, king. Well, he's not even threatening anything. You don't even have to necessarily move your king. So you take the knight, he takes your pawn, and it's not check. You can kind of just ignore him and go about your merry way as if nothing's happening. But we took one. Oh, this. Oh, right. This was our mistake. Okay. Now this makes sense. I knew that this was a mistake when I did it, so I'm happy that it was this and not something else. Yeah, you could definitely just take the knight, but if you want to be safe because you already have a winning position, or clearly better position, if you just want to maintain status quo and not have to think or calculate, you can make this mistake and go that route. That's what we did. He just blunders. We throw in this move. It doesn't matter if you take the pawn or the knight first, it's the same thing. We throw this in just to open up our rook before we take the knight. And now it's -5. He goes hanging more knights, but we play a more logical, solid move, defending with a counter threat. And again, queen trade is the single most important move that changes the logic of a chess game, the queen trade. So we try to offer it when we're up a piece, as it changes the entire game and makes it way easier to convert. So we long castle for king safety, and this is a force move. We develop a piece and connect our rooks. We finish development. This is a force move and for free. And now bring the least active piece into the game. Force recapture with check for free. And now you have many moves, but this one is just a deflection tactic. So we can try to checkmate him as he hangs his queen. So, near perfect game. You can see the train of thought. Whenever they go bishop c4, we prepare d5, take control over the center. And you can see how moves like g5, h5 are ideas, even though we didn't really move our pieces and we made mostly pawn moves. Because when the pawns are way in front of the pieces and everything's interlocked, the pieces have nowhere to go anyway, so it doesn't really matter if they moved. So that's why we prioritize the pawns and getting a beneficial structure, and then once that's attained, we can maneuver the pieces behind that closed structure to the maximum. Submit your Rappy games in my Discord. Good luck in your chess and goodbye.